everybody who's here and all those that are online. We truly appreciate you participating in the dialogues, leadership dialogues, book review dialogues of ULP, and I'm really grateful to see all of you here. And I'd like to welcome all of you. I see the man in prayer, the man of purpose is here, and also like to welcome my friends from Finland, Dumo and Christopher. And so we're in this great session. Let me just explain what we're going to be doing so that you know. We're going through this book called I Am a Man, written by Brajer. I call him Brajer because we grew up under his leadership. So don't call him Brajer when I can't or Kimkholo Mkulu Jerem Mofokeng wa Makhetha. Limme, may just raise up your hand, Vaubona, or Brajeri, Atamala. Hey, all the way from Nice now. Hey, Grootman. No, that's good. Mine is just to introduce the two people, and then I'll sit down. Let me first just introduce confidence. Let's clap hands for confidence. Confidence. I always tell a story of confidence to inspire any young person who's listening to us, whether online right now, that the story of confidence is really the story of confidence. This young man has attended ULP regularly, and then one day he was confident to come into me, and he said, listen, I have something to offer to ULP here. And I said, what is it? He said, I want to make sure that I really encourage the African nation to write their stories, because the story of African people has always been written by people from Europe or from America, and the people who have colonized us in Africa. And so the stories, is like 1652, Jennifer Rubin discovered South Africa. Can you believe it? I mean, it's like South Africa was not there. It's discovered by one man. I was in Vic Falls the other day, man. You know, it's like the Vic Falls were discovered by Livingstone. You know, as if we were not there. Yeah, you know, and so we need to write our stories. That's a mission of confidence. And he writes, he's got his own publishing book. Please come in, please come in, please come in, because we've already started and we're online. Come in. And he publishes, he's got a publishing company, Ascension, its name. Oh, now I'm from this one. Oh, hey, I find Nebo Nkulunkulu Thandeka. Maptula. I mustn't and he's writing books, and he's encouraged a lot of writers, and that is what we are about here. So the story of I'm a Man is Brajeri. Mofokeng wa Makhetha is an iconic and award-winning South African actor. I mean, if you don't know Brajeri now, just go through your videos throughout. I mean, over the many, many decades, he's been on the South African TVs, and it's amazing. He grew up feeling like an outsider. So many of our young people are like outsiders. His mother frequently told him how he had wailed as a baby when he first introduced to his father's family. At the age of 58, only at the age of 58, by chance he discovers his real father's identity. That's a true story of many of us, especially with migrant labor. In this book, Ntate Jerry, that's what we call him, shares his life's journey with great honesty and humor. He invites us into his family as he describes his love for his wife and children. He takes us to meet the famous performers like John Carney, the legends, Hugh Masekela, and recalls his experience at Columbia University in New York. He also writes poignantly about the ups and downs of his career. With I Am a Man, Dada Jerry shares his wounds, his victories, and the lessons life has taught him on being a man. This is his memoir, but it is called to all men to inhabit their masculinity responsible. As we all know that gender-based violence is one of our, we call it here in South Africa, the second pandemic, because we know how many women are killed, maimed, raped. And it's all because young boys, men, have got this toxic masculinity. And we do it in a very indirect way. And sometimes we, let me also be honest, because we all do this. And I'll also be vulnerable. Some of you don't know, this is my daughter here. And we're going to tell a story when I'm embarrassed here. She's good. I've got a grandson. And so, we had gone out, and then he was keep on just crying, And, because in Zulu, we said, "You're devil of man," He's keep on crying. And I said it just instinctively, Roger, I'm just confessing it. Yeah. And I said, "Hey, stop crying, man. Boys don't cry." And she gave me a clap, man. Not a fist clap. She said, "Daddy, stop it. This is what you're bringing, toxic masculinity, by telling this boy who's 7 years old that men don't cry."
Yes.
So I admit, yeah. So after that, I'm very sensitive about to say those words. Says men don't cry, because that's what start happening, At the 7-year-old, he bottles up his emotion, and then he doesn't cry. And then how does he show his emotions? By being violent to the vulnerable, which is women. And then later on, having mental health, and later on they commit suicide. We've got the very high suicide rate amongst men. So I hope today we'll all learn out of this. I'm handing over to you. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you, Prof. Khadebe. One of my favorite quotes says, leadership, there is no better way to lead than by example, and you always lead by example. So thank you for that, and thank you for the vision of ULP. Dr. Mofokeng wa Makhetha. Am I saying correctly, Ntat? Makhetha.
Yeah.
How are you, Ntat?
I'm well, and you?
No, I'm doing well.
I'm nervous, but butterflies are good.
Butterflies are good. I was listening to one person, he said, when you have butterflies, it's actually good energy. It's good energy. Some people take it in a negative way, but if you view it in a positive way, then it works for you.
No, butterflies means you're dead.
Yeah.
And it means you also don't respect the people that you're talking to.
Wow.
So you need the butterflies.
Wow, thank you. Wow, you've been on screen for over probably 5 decades, and you have butterflies sitting here with me. So now I'm taking it as an order or no. Something here.
Don't harass me.
Dr. Mofokeng wa Makhetha. When I was reading the book, what I realized is that the book is largely about identity. And a person's name gives us clues as to who that person is, where they come from.
Yeah.
And for many of us who have followed your career over the years, we knew you as Ntate Mofokeng, full stop.
Yeah.
But now, when we Google you, we see Dr. Mofokeng wa Makhetha.
Okay.
And the doctor part I want us to tackle a bit later.
Yeah.
For now, I want us to deal with wa Makhetha.
Yeah.
When did we
and by the way, wa Makhetha, for those who don't know, it's of Makhetha.
Of Makhetha.
In Afrikaans, it would have been Van Makhetha.
Yes. Van Makhetha. I think let's use that. So, Dr. Mofokeng Van Makhetha.
Van der Makhetha.
Van der Makhetha. Can you tell us a bit about, because for years you were Mofokeng full stop.
Yes.
But then Van der Makhetha came in.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about wa Makhetha?
Sure, I don't know where to start. 10th December 2014. 10th December is my wife's birthday. And a lady comes to me at Woolworths. Hello, my brother. Hello, my sister. Jerry, I'm saying, hello, my brother. I say, yeah. Hello, my sister. I say, Jerry, listen to me. I'm saying, you are my brother. I say, yeah. You are my sister. Eventually she says, Jerry, you're not hearing me. I am saying my father is your father. Now, that's enough to get you knocked off your feet.
Yes, sir.
I am saying my father is your father. What are you telling me? Do you know a man by the name of Dan Motlepu Makhetha? And I think, yeah, that's the guy who used to have his alcohol at my home. Yeah, the guy I was working with at my first job in 1975. And says, that's your father. That's my father. Oh, I'm sorry, my brother. I think I've made a mistake. I'm causing problems now for the family, for you. No, forget about this. I said, no, don't forget it. Let's call my wife. I say, sweetheart, please tell this lady what you were praying for last night and what happened. My wife calls a radio station, a Christian radio station, says to this pastor, please pray for my husband. He's very unhappy, he's very unsettled, and he wants to know who he is. He's trying to find out who his father is. I write in there, I didn't know, but I knew. And that's what she was praying for the night before. And the following day, I find out who I am.
Wow.
And there's a cry in our hearts. Many of us, if this place was full and you say, let's see how many were raised by single mothers or are single mothers in the house, half the house, and the fathers are alive, the cheese boys out there. And I've heard so many stories of one young lady I was working with. She finds out who her father is. He's a priest of a church I won't mention, somewhere in the Transkei. Daddy, I found out, and I'm happy. Says, listen, you don't want to embarrass me. You don't want to mess up with my credibility, my image. Just stay where you are. You tell me what you want, but just don't say anything. So I was a secret until 2014. And by the way, I've been crucified for using that word. But anyway, I was a secret for 2014. And because of that, I'm able to talk to fathers and mothers. Mothers are sitting with the secrets because they're cursing those bastards or whatever you call them, because they deny the children. You know that the confidence. When a young man finds out the lady is pregnant, the first question is, how much do you want to get rid of it? That's what happens. And so my journey has given me a license to address and challenge men. Please, it's not that child's fault. Adults, get over your issues. Give that child the gift of their identity. Tell them who they are. And so that's how I found out. I say in the book, the journey to the 10th of December 2014 was a long journey.
58 years.
58 years, a secret.
Yes. That I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, growing up in that particular household where there is a sense, spoken or unspoken, there is a sense that you are an outsider in the home. What kind of challenges and difficulties did that bring about in your upbringing because of this 58-year-old secret?
There are things I haven't written in the book because I did not want to be sued or whatever, and I didn't want that to then become the issues. Those who are watching or are in the auditorium here who have lived with favoritism, they know the pain. There's nothing that you can do to be liked or to be treated as a child, as somebody who belongs to this family. Nothing. It doesn't matter. Your fame is good. The money that you bring is good. But when you bring something, oh, you are like your brother. There's absolutely nothing. And it begins to tell that actually, why? Why? Why do I have to work so hard to be liked? For my wife to work so hard to be liked? For my children? Why? And you start asking questions, And it's painful. It's painful. And then there are things that happened that just said, actually, maybe you don't belong here.
The clues are there.
The clues are there. And I didn't write a lot about it in the book. I'll tell you about it. In our township kind of culture of property, the home, that brick and mortar, has a lot attached to it. And who inherits that after the parents is a big issue. Ask the people in the townships. It's a big issue. There's a word called Mjalifa, the heir, the inheritor of the wealth or the estate. And somehow, you have to decide whether it's the firstborn or the lastborn. And more often than not, it has to be the lastborn because they've not had as many opportunities as those who are older. And then you come home, you find out that 10, 12 years ago, your mother and your brother and your sister went to the municipal office and told them that you have gone into exile. They don't know where you are, so they have come to cede the house to your brother. I am 10 minutes drive away when they do that. And my wife gets to hear about it. And she decides, I'm not going to tell Jerry, this thing is going to kill him. And so what made us to open that subject was when my mother one day said, hey, whilst you were gone overseas studying, I got a Fulbright. I was in the US for 4 years. And so whilst you were gone, we didn't want to lose the house, so we decided to hand it over to your brother. And we said, no, we didn't say you're lying, but basically suggesting, don't lie to us. You did it long time ago. And I remember my sister's daughter saying, guys, come on, why don't you apologize? No apology. And guys, dads who are here, please be careful how you treat all your kids in your family. Anything that smells of favoritism, you're starting a very difficult, you're planting poison in that family. And rejection, it's painful. It's very painful. But anyway, those are some of the things. And when I was a little boy, I don't know, 6, 7, something, and my mother, I'm in Lesotho, my mother sends me a present, I think it was a pillow, a nice pillow, and my grandmother decides to take it, give it to my cousin. You know the problem of, I don't know if it's there in white families, but in black families, the daughter's children are loved more than the boys' children. No, Askis, that we are old, we speak the truth. And let's deal with it. Let's deal with it. That's what happens. And so I fight. And I say, no, it's mine. And she spit into my face. Now, some people will say, no, man, it was just once. Why write it? that scar is deep. And then when I find out, I say, oh, she knew that I was not Mofokeng.
Yeah.
She knew. Because I've heard stories about my dad's elder sister who insulted my mother for the pregnancy and everything. But anyway, I shouldn't answer too many questions.
No, but these are issues that, a lot of times are almost deemed taboo.
Yeah.
And we tend to sweep them under the carpet, and people remain with wounds, wounds that never turn into scars.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important that we speak about them. But right now I want to digress a little bit, because in the book, you talk about your upbringing, and you define where you were brought up as the
square mile.
The square mile of greatness.
Yes.
What is the square mile of greatness?
Eish. Guys, you'll have to read for yourself in the book. But let me give you an idea. Ne? A lot of you know the Hector Peterson Memorial in Soweto. The street between the memorial and Orlando West High School, that is Moema Street. Tate Moema was one of the greats of our society. So, when you're going towards Orlando West High School, on the left-hand side, my home is there, house number 8298. And so, right behind my home was Tate Matthews' house. Tate Matthews was submarine, the kind of person that the guys who were going to leave the country, they would have been hidden in that house before they are sending out to exile. And so if you turn right, before you turn right, next door is Washington's Kholo. What was that group you had? King's Messengers from Seventh-day Adventist. Then you go further where the street curves. That's where Hector Peterson actually was killed, about 4 or 5 houses from my home. And then you go straight ahead. Hector Peterson Memorial on the left is Bele Higher Primary School. Hector Peterson was from Bele Higher Primary School. Next door to that church to that school is the Anglican Church, Holy Cross. Desmond Tutu was pastoring there. I'll get to his house, but that's where he was. And if you were to jump a fence and go across, that's Walter Sisulu's house. If you read their autobiography, that's where they lived, which is quite close to Pefeni Station. So when her son had to go into exile, it was just a walk to Pefeni Station, jump the fence, and get into a train and go into exile. Turn right is Uncle Tom's Hall, where the plays of Gibson Kenter were performed, and that's where I got my inspiration. Behind that is Ntate Mutuping's house. Mutuping is one of the greats, the leaders of the PAC. Unfortunately left out of history, you understand ANC PAC politics. And so you are already the street behind me. So you go back towards my home, and then at the corner is Makhetha's house, the musician. And then as you turn is the house where David Kolwane, if you Google these names, you will find them. That's David Kolwane's home. And so going around, you're already back to Moema Street. And you go to the Methodist Church. That's facing Orlando West High School. That's where there was a lady who was trying to run on June 16. She came down from Pefeni Station, came through this street that passes Moema Street, and went into this next street next to Ntate Matthews, and they caught her there. And they took her out of her car, and I don't know what was going to happen to her. And the priest at the Methodist Church rescued her and detained her and called the police to come and rescue her. That's the house. And then you turn left, that's Vilakazi Street. And so Vilakazi, you know, there's Mateba there, and just across is Bishop Tutu's house, and 2 streets away is where Kaiser Mutaung's house was. And who's the lawyer? I forget his name. Ratang Khwatling, yeah, the lawyer. And so if you go all the way up that street, that you'll find Sibongile Khumalo's home and the Peters, the leader of that group. So that square mile has a lot of history to it. And actually, if I were to do another edition of the book, there are many other people just in that square mile that you find. And anybody who visits South Africa visits that area. And I think they should be given that chapter to understand that geography.
You know, we've heard of the richest square mile in Africa, but I think we have to relocate it now.
Yeah.
After hearing this story, I think it has to move from Santen and go to this square mile. Wow, such rich history there. Thank you for that. There's an incident that you speak about which is quite deep. When you were a young boy, and you only realized this when you were writing the book, that you escaped molestation.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that? And also speak to the men, because this book is directed at men.
Yeah.
Speak to the men who were not as fortunate as you and who underwent that type of torture and their wounds and the scars that they've had to face.
I am of the opinion that a memoir is the kind of book that writes itself through you. You need to search and find that raw nerve and keep your finger on the pulse and stay with it. And be comfortable in your discomfort. And tell it and say it. So this is one of those points where quite often when I'm writing, whether it's a book or a play or whatever, if I'm feverish, my wife knows I'll wake up at 2 a.m., go to the next room, and then I'm writing. And I get to Pefeni Station. Pefeni Station is the station I told you about. If you go from Pefeni Station, go left, you go to Walter Sisulu's house. And if you go straight, you're going towards Uncle Tom's hall, and then you turn right, you go towards my home. So my mother, because she did not have any qualifications, she got standard 6 Royal Reader in Lesotho. And her husband was dead, so she really was on shifty ground as far as staying in South Africa. So she worked at a shop at Pefeni Station, Yantate Tsiki. Those who know about some of our heroes in the struggle, they'll know about Naledi Tsiki. He's one of the people who worked with Tokyo Sekhuale. They were in the same area in Dube. So I was working at Pefeni Station selling candles. Remember at that time, not everybody had electricity. There's a subway at Pefeni Station. The trains pass above. And so I'm selling candles, and then sometimes I'm selling the newspapers. Very few people will remember, they will know that. It was The World, before the Post, The World, one of the newspapers that was banned, and then The Star. So you sell those 2 newspapers, and as a young man, you sort of go, hey, Hester. Hey, Hester. But what you're saying is, World and Star. That's what you mean. Hey, Hester. you know, and there's this railway policeman who just befriends me, and I'm following him all the time. Hey, star. And he's protecting me and everything. And then when you go from the subway, turn left, that's where you're going to get where they sell tickets. But before you get to that, there's a little office here. It has a bench in it. And it's just a cool off place for these people, the police, the railway police. There's one on duty at a time. So from time to time, I follow him into this office. From time to time. And then he talks to me and touches me. It means nothing to me at that time. Remember, no one has warned me, educated me, alerted me, and he keeps doing that. And then one day, there are these guys who pickpocket, and they know when the trains are coming, and they jump the gates and go into the trains. And when they come out of the trains, they just jump. And he tried to arrest one of them, and that guy kicked him all the way down the stairs. I don't know what happened to him. So this one night I'm writing, and I get to that point, and I think, what almost happened there? What almost happened there? I freak out just at the thought. I can imagine what it's like for those who actually have been molested by men. Please understand that when you come from Pefeni station and you go to the other side, that's the Pefeni side, and you turn left and you go up the hill, there's a bottle store, and then there's a Dube hostel. Dube single men's hostel. These men are kept there and their wives are way back at home. If you've read the play or seen the play, Sizwe Banzi is Dead, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So what happens to a married man who has to stay away from his wife 11 months? They do it with each other and with the boys. I have a relative who worked at the mines in Kimberley, and he was talking about some young men who didn't have to go underground. They were the queens. They were the queens. They gave men their benefits, and they didn't have to work. And management knew and just gave him his salary. It's painful. It's painful. And I was in Kimberley, and I'm talking about these things, and one lady says, "Now, Jerry, I'm working with these boys, and the problem is our system, the way it is. You try and counsel, you try and heal, you try and pray, but in the evening they have to go back home where the uncle is." I don't know, it touches the raw nerve, but I hope you hear what I'm saying. Thank God I escaped. But I wouldn't be surprised there are young men who are on drugs to try and numb the pain, because it hurts very deep.
When you think of an incident like what happened at the Oscars with Will Smith and Chris Rock, what is your opinion as it relates to masculinity and the pressure that sometimes men get to showcase or na kesengana? What is your opinion on that?
There's a chapter where I talk about some of the marks of a man. And I'm not saying I have 100% mastered all of them. But one of them is maturity. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me. I put my foot in it here, and I believe in it. Your birth certificate confirms your gender. Doesn't make you a man. It does not make you a man. It confirms your gender. In this day and age, it's actually a problem, even that confirmation of a gender. But confirms your gender. 2, it confirms how old this flesh is. But you may be a 45-year-old boy, busy saying, may ma say haze, and not manning up. And then there's the issue that of patriarchy. And let's forget the big dictionary and academic definitions. Patriarchy simply means when people say, no man, leave him a man. Don't you understand? He's a man. What? Leave him alone. He's a man. Well, what it says is, on the basis of gender, he's excused from any nonsense that he does. Simply because he's a man. Okay? Now, a lot of us grow up angry. Angry. Which talks to that particular situation. We are angry inside ourselves. Anything happens, we're high-strung. But the more rich, successful, famous, you have a license. You have a license not to have self-restraint. We were talking outside there about when you are man, when you are mature, you know how to say no to yourself even when you feel like it. Nobody tells you no. You tell yourself, no, I'm not going to do it. I go on tours, I go festivals, I go premiere nights. No woman knows my room number, and I go to any woman's room number in a hotel. Why? A hotel room is a bedroom. How can you go and have a meeting in a bedroom with a normal, healthy, beautiful woman and nothing happens to you? If it doesn't register, you're not holy, you're sick. So what happens there is you have a famous, rich boy who has no self-restraint. And part of, I don't know if what we've read in the social media is true, but part of the pain comes from daddy issues. Too many of us, we're angry with our fathers and we take it out on others. Because we can't handle daddy. Some of our dads, unfortunately, are dead. And so we are ruled from the grave. Listen, if you didn't know who was invited today and suddenly you enter through that door and it's this actor with one eye called Mofokeng wa Makhetha, and you just think, yeah, man, I wish I'd brought my own car. I'd turn right away and go back. If I crack a joke, everybody laughs. It's just like, shame. He thinks he's funny. You have a rough time because you hate me. But what you're doing is giving me power over you. And so the problem is when you hate someone, you feel you have a right, you have an excuse and what have you, because they are bastards and what have you and all those things. The problem is you are the one who suffers. And it is smart. It is smart to forgive them and release yourself from that slavery. And by the way, when you forgive someone, you are not rewarding them. You are taking your power back. I hated that Mofokeng because my mom gave me a sense that if children were only born from love, you would not have been born. And the little I remember as a little boy is going with him in the car, and he went to Orlando West Extension to one of his concubines. You see, he was a successful black man who had a shop, so he could have sweethearts all over. Which partly accounts for me being here. Because the Makhethas were rich. Makhetha. It was Makhetha, Mofokeng, Chabalala in Soweto. Those were the millionaires. Many women as they like. Look at this product. So, yeah. Anyway, the whole question of forgiveness is one of the things. By the way, Dad, you're a publisher. Let me take a chance on you. There's a young breed of coaches who want to write books. Books primarily based on the wounds and scars they have faced. And then they tell a little bit of their story, and they want to prescribe how people should heal their wounds. And I did my best to avoid that, prescribing. I tell you my story, learn from it, glean what you can, but live your life. Read my story, but live your life. I tell you about my grandmother. Do you have a grandmother or somebody in the family that spits at you? Look at me now. Do you have something about you that I have this eye? And people forget about everything about me. Don't you know Jerry? The one with one eye. And yet today, film directors go from America and everywhere and say, we want that actor, that one. Yeah, that's the one we want. Yes. And so when somebody said to me, sorry, brother, what happened to your eye? I tell them, and they said, can we pray for you? I said, no, you can't. Don't pray for me. You can't change this eye because I'll lose my job. Yeah.
So it's become a blessing.
Hey, Chance, this is my brand. But I was making the point about the young coaches writing. Please, don't write pamphlets, write books. I'm taking chances. You're the publisher. Don't write pamphlets, write books. Let the book write itself through you. Yeah. And no Photoshop of anything. Yeah. Anything. Like it is. Now, a memoir is not an autobiography. I didn't tell you all about my life. I had not planned to do so. I wanted to give you moments of my life so you have the benefit of some of my scars and some of my stars. And then you can learn from those. But please, gents, those of you who are planning to write, Don't write a pamphlet, write a book. And I get it's nice to self-publish, but try not to do that with your first book. Get a publisher and get an editor so that they take you through the ropes. You see this book here, there are 80 pages that went into the dustbin because I was just adding fat. And some of the stories, my publisher says, Jerry, if you want to read the Bible, we'll go to the Bible. Don't
cut and paste the Bible.
No, don't cut and paste the Bible. When you want to be, we'll go to the Bible. You can tell us where to read, but don't give us the Bible here.
Yeah.
So the discipline of cutting out. And the editor who says, I know what you're trying to say. Let me put it in good English. And think, yeah, that's what I was trying to say. So here and there I sound smart because the editor did it. But that's why when you do a play, I write, somebody directs, somebody act. But to write and act and direct in the same play, don't do that. Anyway, I'm trying to say, I'm glad I had the discipline of a publisher and an editor. And then my wife read and gave me notes. My kids read and say, And then after it got finished, there are some of my kids who haven't finished the book up to today. They can't. They just, is this what you went through, Papa? Is this what you went through? We thought we knew you. We don't know you. You've reintroduced yourself to us. Yeah.
It's one of the powerful things I really loved about the book, how vulnerable you allow yourself to be. And it's a really powerful tool for engaging with the reader. To everybody in the house, we're going to be taking questions in-house and online. So if you're watching via our social media and you have questions for the dog, please just type your questions there and then they'll be fed through to me. And then we've got a roving mic. So I'm just going to take one question and then we'll start taking questions from the house. Growing up in the era you grew up in, you've mentioned Hector Peterson, that he was shot three houses away from your house.
Yeah.
As an actor, a thespian, somebody who's in the world that you exist in, the arts and culture world, what role did you feel you had in the fight against apartheid, and what were some of the actions you took?
I ran away from calling myself an activist. Yeah, I do. I was part of the debating group at my school, Orlando West High School, and so we had the opportunity to influence. In 1977, remember 1976, we didn't write. And in 1977, there was a huge debate. Do we write or don't we write? Do you write exams of a poisonous education or don't you? And I'm the one who stood up and said, we write. Because an argument will not open doors for you. You're right. Let's write the exams. I won't be sitting here without that matric certificate. Because it doesn't matter what you've done, unless you go outside the country, then you're in exile, and on the basis of that you condone for this or you get into that. But and so I guess my contribution comes in the area of the arts when I was in a position of power as artistic director, as educator, as director. The heart of development, so that I don't remain the one and only solitary giant. I bring others along with me.
Yes, sir.
And I guess at this point in my life, it's about legacy. It's about passing the baton instead of competing with the younger generation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just before we go, so if you have questions, please raise your hand. All right. So before we go to the audience, just on education, you had the opportunity. You spoke briefly about it. That you had the opportunity to go to New York, go study at Columbia University, one of the top universities in the arts and culture sphere. What was that experience like?
Heaven. Please, sure, I shouldn't take everything out of the book, but one of my professors, Ian Stedman, says, have you applied for a Fulbright scholarship? I say, what's that? He describes it. And I said, no, man, that's for giants. That's for tigers. And he says, no, just apply. They can only say, no. I apply. I was on my way to Alex to go and give a class, an acting class. So I'm just modestly dressed. The people in the queue. It's like it's a wedding. Everybody's dressed up, and there I am, actor. Anyway, whilst waiting for that, Peter Brook comes to South Africa. Who knows Peter Brook? No. Peter Brook is like the Pope of theater. Peter Brook. That guy, I don't know, I can't describe him. This guy is going to do a production called Mahabharata, an Indian epic. That play, it takes 9 hours on stage. He comes to South Africa, he chooses 2 actors, Mavuso Shabalala and me. That's a dream for an actor. I'm going to live in Paris for 9 months. We're going to work this play, and then we're going to go on a world tour. World tour. With Peter Brook, I'm going to be driving around in limousines and that. I'm going to live 6-star hotels.
Yeah.
I get the Fulbright and I get the role. And I must choose. That's when I went to a counselor for advice. I went to a counselor. I just wish the people who are successful would take an opportunity to stop and listen for a word of wisdom. I hope you hear what I'm saying. Jake White, I'm an old man, I take detours now. Jake White, remember when he took the Bokke to England and they won the World Cup? Yeah. In one of the interviews, he says, no, when I realized now I'm in the semi-finals, and sure, the stakes are high, I went to my coach. Jake White, the coach of the Bokke, has a coach so that he can have a sounding board. It is a problem to be so big that nobody can advise you. It's a problem. So I went to advise. I went to Ndate Caesar Molebati. Some of you might know him. And he advises me, he says, listen, you'll go to Peter Brook and you'll be famous and you'll go around the world and you'll go to the stage door where actors enter and exit. And every time you exit, there'll be a lot of white girls who are curious to sleep with a black man. That's not theory. I saw the Sophiatown guys when they came to New York, and when they went out, the door was packed. You know, and they say with no strings attached, there are strings attached. And so I chose not to go with Peter Brook and to take the Fulbright. My colleagues could have killed me. Who says no to Peter Brook? Seriously, who says no to Peter Brook? Anyway, I'm there for 4 years. One day, whilst they do Mahabharata in Brooklyn, he comes to a class at Columbia. And he sits down and he looks at me and says, "Hello, Jeremiah." He remembers me. He says, "It would have been nice to work with you." You understand? That was difficult. And I went to watch the play and I saw the role I would have played. I saw. But Peter Brook is one line in a CV. One line in a CV. I hope that talks to somebody in here. One line in a CV. Ntate Mo, the director, will tell you he looks at a lot of CVs. Too many of us young professionals, our CVs are long and shallow. Because we are very easy to be stolen from one company to the next. Very easy. And our primary concern is how big is the engine in my car and how much further north can I go in Johannesburg. And after a while, nobody can trust you because they know you can leave anytime. But I went to Columbia that day and I studied there. I saw the best and the worst of theater. The Broadway theaters, I went there, mahala, because we had classes with the Schuberts. Those are the mafias of Broadway. We had classes with them. And I remember one of them saying, "Don't talk to me about art. I'm here for business." You come from South Africa, you come from protest theater and this and that, and I said, and you understand, Sarafina survived on Broadway. Primarily, the attitude was, it's the victims of apartheid portraying themselves. That's what worked. Different from John Kani and Winston, who were there on merit. And so, which is part of what I get into trouble with many a time, because I always want standards, excellence. At least this is 9:10. Whatsoever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. Do it everything in such a way that you can put your signature under it. Even if you make a cup of tea, do it well or don't do it.
I believe we've got questions from the audience. We'll give the man in the cap. Please introduce just your name and then your question.
Good evening, everyone. Dumelang Tate Jerry. My question is, how did you know that, like, you've healed after all that you went through? And also, I'd like to know, how did you reserve yourself not to be affected by the external forces? Thank you.
I think let's get another question. There's a lady in the jeans. Oh, then yeah.
Thanks. My name is George Ngwenya. Thanks, Bracheri, for what you've just said. It's strange that part of what you've been saying is just to tell your story, but one could pick up some biblical principles in what you've been saying. And they sink so well as one is listening. And yet, in an environment of a church setting, such principles, it's difficult for some of us to swallow. You know, I met you in the early 80s. You were leading one of the boys' retreat called Kayara Lodge, you know, from Youth Alive. And a lot of us are products of your leadership. And yet, sadly, a number of Makhetha have left Tumelo, if I may put it that way. And so my question is, what is it that the church is not doing right, either to attract or retain Makhetha? Or maybe should we relook and rework the current model of the church so that it becomes relevant and speak to our men and boys?
I think let's allow Tate to tackle those two, and then we'll handle a couple more.
Honestly speaking, my faith preserved me. I allowed myself to be a fool. Basic principles go a long way. Basic. In the faith, in marriage, in business, stay with the basics. You watch. Stay with the basics. Through the influence of my wife, I learned that going to church is not a good idea, it's the best idea. I like the word when people go to church, they say, we're going to the service. You get serviced in here at church. If they do their job properly in the pulpit, you get serviced. And you never know what God is going to say to you on that Sunday. Never. No. There's a saying, the wise person is the one who's teachable and learns every day. So, part of me being faithful to Claudine this year in June will be 42 years married. I tell you now, the Joseph principle. If you think a man can't take a no for an answer, try a woman. I'm telling you. And so I've had to learn to run. And you sleep at night and the devil says, you're such a coward. I can't. I mean, even David, will I and God forgave him. He was a giant, he's bigger than you. I mean, who will know? It's Austria at that time. Austria, where you are the only black man in the restaurant. But I ran. I did. The running principle and the cutting principle. When the Bible says when your foot troubles you, cut it. Who must cut it? You. So you know that when I go to that place, there's a good chance I'm going to be in trouble. Don't go. Don't start the car. Don't go there. I learned, we came up with a principle in Bethlehem. I was doing a workshop there, talking to adult singles. They dealing with the ex and this person that's following you all the time. Block and delete. Watch the phone. A lot of trouble starts with the phone. Block and delete. There are people who want to befriend me and what have you. Unfortunately, I'm in the arts, so they want the numbers and all. There are people I delete immediately simply because of what they say. Pow, gone. So the cutting principle, you learn to cut. So the success comes from the little principles that look foolish, but they work. They work. You run, you cut, no secrets and no lies. The problem is you lie once, you need 10 other lies to maintain that first lie. You do. How did I know that I've forgiven? It's not a microwave. You work at it. You work at it. If you absolutely struggle, like I had one, you'll read about it in the book, and I was crying alone in the car, I went for professional help. I got professional help. One of the therapies was to get a pillow, new one, with feathers, and I get a whip, and I walloped it. And I made it that person that really had wronged me, and I spoke to them out. I don't know how many days, but I walloped that pillow. Looked stupid, but I did. And said, just walk and speak to yourself and speak to that person. Some people have to go to the grave and talk to their parents and their fathers who wronged them and fluke them until they're healed. But it's a process. And you commit yourself to it. And let me say this. I talked about maturity, ne? Listen to me. Sometimes you have to accept an apology that will never come. Do you hear what I'm saying? That person is not apologizing because they don't have the apology inside themselves. And so you are stressing yourself. You'll go to the hospital with depression because you're waiting for an apology that will never come. That's the maturity I'm asking for in this book. Daddy, I have problems with some of the latest brand of preachers. And sometimes we as congregants must take the responsibility for allowing them. Many of them are motivational speakers and not preaching the true gospel. All they want is to siphon money out of you and not service you to become a disciple. And we are too polite to call them to order. Some of them, all they sell is miracles and not faith. And because they amass so much wealth and everything, and that's how we define success, we want to emulate them. Idi Amin had a lot of people that would die for him. You remember that? So some of these false prophets and motivational speakers, people would die for them. And those who preach the true gospel continue to have humble fellowships, or sometimes they grow, but they stick with their word. And unpopular as they sometimes get, but they do. And I've avoided temptations of going any of those routes. The miracles route will not touch me. But sometimes as black people, we like takeaway faith. You want water, you want oil, you want lebanta, safety belt, we like takeaway faith. And there are people who are willing to sell you that. But I thank God for ministries like Youth Alive that discipled us. Those who are in the church, there are young people, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, there are young women, Esther, Ruth, and others. Those young people were giants in a foreign country, including Joseph, in a foreign country. Why? Psalm 119 verse 11, thy word have I hid in my heart, that I may not sin against you. In other words, you get to a point where you own the faith and can live with whatever challenges. And I say it in this book, please hear me out. It's both the highs and the lows that can floor you. There are people who can't handle success. You know, many of us, celebrities, stars, what have you, you go to our funerals, there are 27 kids from all over the world. Because we can't keep our zip up. Now, I don't know what it is. Ladies, please understand me. I don't know what it is that makes women to think that when you're a celebrity, you're worth bedding at least once. Everywhere you go, there are those people who want to give you hospitality with no strings attached. And so, when you're a celebrity, you have to decide which offers to take. You don't go proposing. And successful men are in trouble. If you meet success without character, you're dead. You're dead. And then you can always say, but I didn't go hunting. I mean, there I was in Cape Town with the DG and one other CEO and me. And we do the meeting, we do this, we do that. And then eventually, how? When I list dog, it means there's supply. So the DG must choose first, and then the two of us can take. It makes sense. Now, I have a principle, one of my principles is this. I go to the premieres and closing night and rep party for films, and 11 o'clock, I go home. And I don't say that I'm going home. I pretend I'm going to the toilet and then I'm gone. Because here's the thing. Those of you who take alcohol, you see, the breweries lie to you and say that alcohol makes you sexy. They are lying. Alcohol makes you brave. When you're a little tipsy, you can do what you can't do when you're sober. And so, the little girls who call Bab Jerry, hey, Mr. Jerry, once they're tipsy, there are no limits. Yeah, I shouldn't go too graphic, but the same old time religion, credible preaching, and mentorship goes a long way. Every film I get into, I make it my job to multiply myself with the cast that's next to me. And I can't accept all the requests that come through the social media. It's impossible. But everyone I work with, I try and multiply myself there. I hope I answered the questions.
I believe you have. You gave ample supply. There's a comment and a question from Octavia Ephraim. Always an honor and transformational listening to you, Ntate Jerry. I appreciate that you use your platform to start to start social injustice conversations. How can the family be equipped in the healing journey of a boy/man who was molested?
I think, for starters, the embrace from everyone in the family. 2, professional intervention. And let somebody go with that person for professional intervention. The men in the family then need to take him by hand in walking through life. Just a few mentors that says, I got you. Yeah. I got you. Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. The lady with the glasses with the blue jacket, I believe you had a question, ma'am? Or am I incorrect?
Good day, my name is Dion. We're having a curriculum on the 31st of April for the boys that we work with, and the title of the curriculum is The Mask You Live In, because we believe that as boys or men, they kind of hide everything that they go through because of to being a man and not showing other people your weakness. So what we want to do is we want to give them mask, and then they can write down at the back of the mask whatever things they go through that nobody knows about them. Because outside when they go, they carry this braveness that everything is well. I cannot show you how weak I am. So what we want to know, it also goes what, Baba, you said that you open up, and then where you're coming from, you're going back to the same mud that you're coming from cleaning. So we're going to help them to speak up and say, it's fine to speak up, everything's going to be fine. But when they go back home, they're going back to the same situation. So what can we do or say to them after the program to say, this is what we can do for you, this is how we can hold your hand? Because we don't have all the means to change their lives, but we can walk hand in hand with them to say, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do in this journey, to say, if you're going through this is how you can fight it. And even though you're going to the same mess, but how do you stay positive as a boy child or a man?
Could the program please have social workers in it, or people who have that capacity? Sometimes even to go to the family and intervene in some way, because you can't leave them to themselves. They're not empowered. Within 1 month, they're not empowered. They somehow need somebody. Some of them actually, you might need after that day to take them into some therapy so that they actually take it all out in a safe environment, and then be put in that incubator and then taken out with sufficient support. So please get some partnership from social workers, and then some might need the elders in the church who might actually provide pastoral ministry.
My name is Percy. Ntate Jerry,
Yes,
I would
sir.
like to know, between theater and screen, which one do you love the most? And I would like, one thing, I would like you to advise us. Like, we have seen a lot of artists come and go, but Ntate Jerry, you are still here even now. So as we are young artists, I'm an artist too, what advice can you give us to be still there like you are?
Okay.
Brother.
Theater is my number one. Okay? And those of us who started in the theater were always prejudiced. Because you see, in theater, you're there with your naked self and the craft. film and television, you have the benefit of cuts, of edits, of all sorts of things. But even there, when you get it right, it's something like it happened with Tsotsi, you know. So film is a very close second. Television, let's not go there. I do it to put bacon on my table. Yeah. What sustains is the character that I was talking about. The character, the material that you are. That's what sustains you. The integrity, the courage to do the right thing when nobody's watching. That sustains you. My wife doesn't need to follow me to the festival. She doesn't need, my kids don't need to be embarrassed. And by the way, I do it for me. For me. And then the benefits go to everyone, including to God. Sure.
Daddy Jerry, I'm just I'm here with a heavy heart, carrying the emotion of a boy child. We're dealing with a boy child almost daily. So when I started working with men, I went to Johannesburg prison. By then there were 12,000 inmates and 11,000 of those were men. And daily we deal with boys that goes to rehab. Mostly it is boys that we find them in rehab. So as an actor and an influential person, my question will be, how can we get a timer who have went to the suburbs to come back to the township to be able to be positive role models to a boy child?
I was saying to the director before this program, I wish I could get the funding to take this book and walk the townships throughout this country. Here's the thing. Unfortunately or fortunately, the things that we do are what puts bacon on our tables. And so you say you want me for 3 weekends. I say, okay, please go and raise the funds. And then there's a problem. But wherever possible, we don't mind going into partnerships with organizations. I was doing the island with women, the John Kani Winston Jonah play. And I went into schools. I can show you videos. They erupted. Immediately I went into the hall. Here's the thing. I often say, I wish the church could take advantage of our testimonies. Because when you're a celebrity, people give you the mic, whether you got some mind in your head or not, they give you the mic. So if you actually do have something sensible to say, it's a great advantage. But sometimes we are a threat to the pastors and some people. And of course, one of the problems is that people are gullible. Then they make you such a big hero, and they forget about this pastor that takes care of them 52 weeks a year. So we need a balance. But let me mention this. I'm part of some groups on social media, Men of Honor, in Witbank, Kulumandota, Ungatuli, and here and there. There's an organization called Prime Stars. They want to take programs to boy children in high schools. I might do some work with them. There are initiatives here and there that some partnerships are happening. But please understand, I'm only one Jerry Mofokeng wa Makhetha. There's only so much I can do. I've had so many requests. Will you be our patron? Will you say, Gents, I don't want to promise what I can't deliver. Because when I deliver seriously. So, yeah, wherever there's an opportunity, I throw my face, my word, and my name in. But when I can't, please don't crucify me. I won't necessarily be able to do it everywhere.
Thank you, Tate Jerry, for such a presentation. I heard you said you don't have actually steps towards somebody who wants to heal, but I just want to tap into the wisdom and your counseling skills. Say, okay, my name is Benedict Shuban, I forgot. And maybe before I get into my question, there's another verse in the Bible that worries me a lot. 2 Timothy 1:5, Paul says to Timothy, I'm reminded of your faith of your grandmother and your mother. It's worrisome because there's no grandfather and father, but we'll talk about it one day. So I'm just giving a scenario. There is a young boy growing up across the street. The father is there. The mother always tells the boy, your father is there. The boy wants to reach to the father, but the father always blocks the boy. And there is nothing the mother can do. The mother has been the best mother and she has not stopped the boy from having a relationship with the father. These are the situations that sometimes are a reality in our neighborhoods. What will you say to a man who's supposed to mentor such boys? Because as Men in Prayer, we are in a project of mentoring such boys, just to share some knowledge on that one.
Hey, Prof, sometimes I'm hard. Please allow me to. Unfortunately, there are some men who are simply sperm donors. They're not fathers. You know what I mean. There are men who, because of the power or some power or whatever, you find a man with 5 firstborns. In other words, he's got children with 5 different women. And he's not fathering those children. Supporting your children is not fathering them. I'll repeat. Supporting is not fathering. Manhood is an inside job. Ladies and gentlemen, I maintain that. Manhood is an inside job. The things that are outside are just the fruits of the man inside. And sometimes the toughest, the bravest, the most loving inside are the ones who are the giants because they dare to love. They dare to forgive. They dare to father. When you don't say, hey, gents, sorry, man, I can't go to Clarence to the festival with you. Fro is working this weekend, so I'm babysitting. My foot, you're not babysitting, you are fathering. Yeah. You're not helping your wife, you're helping yourself. That should be clear to you. You must own that. Our girls, our daughters the first man that they should be in love with is their father. Daddy dates his girls and no subject is out of bounds. And when daddy listens, nobody is going to fool that girl. Because she's got daddy in her corner. Daddy in her corner. And so, here's the thing. Men in Prayer, you disciple those young men to be men in their own rights. The father, you see, I'm challenging fathers to declare their children and mothers to stop keeping the secret. But there's no guarantee that the father is going to welcome them. There's no guarantee. Which is why you need to empower that young man to be self-actualized in his own identity, in his own worth. So that when they go there, whether the father accepts or rejects, they can handle it. I am not saying it's easy. I am not saying it's easy. Because I come from the loins of that man. That's why I look the way I do. That's why my DNA is what it is. But I am me. And I need the ability to man up and to manage me. That is important. And so when you disciple, when you mentor those young men, don't promise them a guarantee of how the father is going to react. That don't guarantee that he's going to be jumping around. That's melite. No. If it happens, great. Great. And those fathers who deny their children, they are excited to be called when the son is a millionaire or is going to receive some awards, and they want to be there in the pictures. That's melite. That's melite. It's melite. They like the honor, but not the responsibility to father. You see, gents, do you know what it's like when a little girl is in Cinderella and she's walking to stage and keeps checking? It's my phone. Can you believe it? And looking for daddy. Daddy said he was coming, and daddy is not there. That entire performance is spoiled because daddy is not there. But because daddy has the millions, he outsources his responsibility to the maid. He buys a nice car for the maid to take the child to school for a performance. But daddy is not there. When a little boy is learning soccer and he scores his first goal and daddy is the first person in the ground, that is what builds the man inside. That's what it takes. But we find it too easy to outsource fathering. Too easy.
We've got a question online from Papi Mboyani. Braje, do you think if you didn't go through what you went through, you were going to be where you are today, worse off or far ahead, and why?
I'm happy with my itinerary. Anything else I say would be a guess. And I don't want to have been somebody else. I don't know what it would have been like for me to have two eyes. Would it have made me a better actor, a worse actor? I don't know.
Yes, sir.
What I do know is that I have no competition for actors with one eye.
No, brilliant. It's always affirming to receive, recognition, awards, and you receive so many in your lifetime. In the introduction, we spoke about the fact that you are now Dr. Jerry Mofokeng wa Makhetha. But you've also received the African Film Legend Award in Texas and numerous others. Which of those do you treasure and how much weight do those have in your life?
Eish. 2013, I get a letter from NFVF Golden Horn Awards that they would like to give me a Lifetime Achievement Award. That's a year before 2014 when I found my identity. So it's special to be honored at home and to be honored in your lifetime. Those two, they go a long way. So that award meant a lot to me. And then the doctor one. You know, Prof can tell you, they don't tell you that they've nominated you. They go through rigorous processes, questions, arguments, and then it goes to the next level, and then it goes to the next level, to the Senate. And somebody told me later that it was a unanimous vote, yes, for me to get the doctorate. And then they write to me and says, look, the Senate of this university has decided to honor you with a doctorate. Do you accept? What do you mean, do I accept? Why do I? So, and then, but some doubts come. Me, doctor, me. So I call Rajon Khan. Rajon, what does it mean? He says, bro. Actually, they are late.
Yeah.
You deserve it.
Wow.
You see, if you take the old style scales, you put irons this side and you put millimil this side. And 2 pounds and millimil this side. Says, if you put a doctorate on this side, and you put all the work that you've done as a lecturer at Wits, as artistic director, as an actor, in development, in your acting, if you put all that, man, you're just going to flip the scale like that. He says, they're not doing you a favor, they are acknowledging what you have done. It was very interesting on the day I was receiving that. And then I'm standing there, and this prof is reading everything about me. It's like, yo, serious? Yeah, ne? Yeah. Yo. And eventually says, Mr. Vice Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Jerry Mofokeng wa Makhetha. You know, it's a formal event. People were ululating and flating. It was a feast.
Yes, sir.
That said a lot to me. To be honored at home in my lifetime.
Yes, sir. Paul. Now, with everything that you've done and everything that you are currently doing, what is it that you would like to be remembered for?
For being a man of integrity.
Doc, they say that a scar reminds you that the pain you felt was real. But a scar also reminds you that wounds can heal.
Yes.
Thank you for showing us your scars and helping us to heal. We honor you today. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.